Hi everyone, and welcome back to another TFT guide. It's going to be talking about set 16 today, and talk about the units, the mechanics, and everything you need to know to have success in the new sets. So a couple of things we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the mechanics and the main changes to like the systems. So what unlocks are, and also the changes to like XP or shop odds, etc. Then we're going to be talking about every origin in class, so just like the traits of the new set, along with some boards, some items, some positions, etc. And that'll be about it. So if you have any questions, make sure you ask them in the Discord and you join the Discord. I'm also doing this live, so we'll check out the stream after. The description will have the link to the stream. Okay, so let's get straight into it. So what is the new set mechanic? It's basically going to be unlocks. And what that means is there are going to be some units that you must have a certain condition or a certain rule in order for them to become available to you. So there are going to be 40 unlockable units in the current set. So I think there's about 60 regular ones and then 40 unlocked ones for like 100 in total. The way it works is once you have met this condition, so for example, let's look at something like the Skarner, right? So field a non-tank with a Gargoyle Stoneplate in combat and you have to be level 7. So once you have fulfilled that condition, then it will have kind of like an unlock symbol, like something will show up, and then you're guaranteed one copy of this in your next shop in your far right slot. So that is how you're going to acquire these unlocked units. Let's say you accidentally unlock something. For example, sometimes you have like a Thieves Gloves on a unit and it rolls like rolls a Stone Plate. Then you unlock the Skarner, and then you're thinking, oh, my shops are going to be diluted. I just have a Skarner that I don't want to play. All you have to do is don't buy it, and then they'll appear less often. The last thing to note is some of these conditions, they're like level locked, and also some have to be within a player combat, while others can be unlocked during like a PBE round. So that is something that you must note, and that will affect whether or not like you can sack around, etc. Okay, so for the system changes, here's a couple. The main important ones is basically that playing a board on stage 3 is going to be more important this set. The base damage is increased by 1. So this means that if you are lose streaking within stage 3 and you lose like all 5 rounds, that's a bonus 5, a reverse bonus 5 HP, so you'll be losing an extra 5 HP. So in the last set, sometimes you just 10 loss and then you just 4-1 it. Now that's going to be a little bit different because stage 3 deals more damage. Also, the experience to level 8 has been increased by 12 gold, so it's hard to get to level 8, and also stage 3 deals more damage. This means that like just 10 loss into a 4-1 or a 10 loss into a 3-7 is going to be much harder to pull off. Stage 4 damage also gets decreased by 1, which means that if you are to stack stage 4 and go level 9, this is a little bit more probable and reasonable. And the very last part is it's easier to get to level 9 and 10, and the shop odds are increased for 4 costs on level 8 and the 5 costs on level 9. Okay, so let's get into the origins first. So the first one is going to be Bilgewater. Basically what this trait is after you field 3 or more Bilgewaters, you'll be getting something called Serpents or Silver Serpents. And this is like kind of a currency that you can use to buy at the Bilgewater shop. So there will be a little icon here. You can click this to enter the Bilgewater shop, and then basically you will have the chance to exchange these like tokens that you got for either Bilgewater units, stat shards, Bilgewater items, or lesser duplicators just for Bilgewater units. And it's pretty cool. As you go up within 3, 5, and 7, 10 is like insta-win, you'll be not only getting more serpents per round, but you'll also be able to unlock better loot. So that is basically what the trait is. Yeah, as you get a Bilgewater takedown, you also get 2 additional serpents. So you can basically like get a ton of serpents and then trade them in for like good items, or like you could use them to buy units for tempo. And then you will also get Tom Kench. So this is an unlockable unit after you spend 500 of these Silver Serpents. So this is going to be the traits. I'll talk about some of the items. You might not recognize them. So here are the tier 1 and the tier 2 items. The tier 1 items will start to appear at 5 Bilgewater, and then in order to get tier 2 items, you must have 7 Bilgewater. It's either 5 to 7 or 7. I'm not 100% sure on this, but you must have at least 5 for the tier 1 items to even appear. A couple of the really good ones like Captain's Brew, attacks being able to burn and chill enemies, is going to be really good on units such as like Misfortune, who have an AoE spell and able to really proc it. One thing you must remember is burn is not the same thing as wound. So burn is going to be like the actual damage, but wound is the anti-heal effect. So if you build this item, or if you buy this item, you must still have anti-heal, either through like red buff, Merlot, etc. Yeah. The tier 2 ones are really good as well. A couple like of the really good ones is like Pile of Citrus. Anything that allows you to generate more Silver Serpents will just put you like ahead on tempo. So definitely try this out if you have a Bilgewater start. Okay, moving on to the next one, Demacia. So what Demacia is basically going to be a two-parter. It's a resistance trait, so it gives you armor and magic resist, and it also has % mana reduction as your team takes damage. So whenever your team loses 25% max HP, your Demacians rally, and then reduce the cost of their abilities by 10%. So this is the comp. A disclaimer for the comps that I'm showing within the comps that I'm showing within like today's guide. Some of them are very good. However, some of the traits just are not very good right now. For example, like Demacia is a pretty undertuned trait, so I wouldn't recommend playing this board as soon as you see this video. This is just what a Demacia board would look like. And then when the trait is good, like when it gets buffed, then these boards would be a lot better. So just a disclaimer on that. Galio is an unlockable unit for this composition, and he's unlocked after fielding 12 Demacian star levels. And he himself cannot be fielded, but his Demacia trait will count from the bench. And then he will fly in after a little bit of the combat. Okay, Freljord. If you are an OG and you played like TFT back then, you'll know that there was a similar trait called Jade in set 7.5, where basically you could place a statue and then units that are adjacent to the statue will benefit. So kind of same thing here. There's two parts to Freljord. There's going to be HP and there is going to be damage amp. So any allies that are in front of it will gain HP, while any allies that are behind it will gain damage amp. And I do believe it's in front or adjacent. So if there are units adjacent to the tower, then this will be HP, and then it's more so anything behind the tower will be granted damage amp. One thing to remember is the Freljords gained 150% more. It's not 150% of. So you end up getting a lot of damage amp and a lot of HP from having your Freljord units around these frozen towers. Volibear is going to be one of the units that you can unlock. So this will be unlocked after a unit reaches 3800 HP or more. So pretty solid comp right now. And you need a spat and a belt to make a Freljord emblem. Ionia. So the Ionia effect will change every game. You have a couple one here. You have Spirits, you have Blades, you have Transcendence, Enlightened, and Prosperous. Some of them you can just use Ionia for tempo. The actual base stats of the trait itself will be like HP, AD, and AP. So for example, you can use like the XP one to tempo. You can also use the gold one to tempo and to play into something else. Or you could like reroll with the 3-star ones, or these two are just combat ones for Ionia. The effect will change per game. However, the effect within a game will be constant for everybody. So one player can't just have like this one, and then another player have like Blades. They will be the same for everyone, and it will be a Rod and a Spat to make an emblem. Here's an example of a board that includes Ionia. Usually the 4-cost carry for Ionia will either be Yunara or Yone. As mentioned, it grants base HP, AD, and AP, and the 5-cost unlockable set can be fielded by fielding only one unit in the first 2 rows. And this can be done on a PBE round as well. Okay, let's keep going. So Ixtal is basically going to be the cash out trait of the set. By placing 3 Ixtal onto your board, you now can start having quests. And what your, I guess like your Ixtal shop will look like is you'll have 3 quests. So quests 1, 2, 3, and then this is just going to be like your cash out button. And then as you complete quests, you will be rewarded with Ixtal shards. And then based off of how many Ixtal shards you have will be dependent on how good of a cash out you have. So the more Ixtal shards you have, when you cash out, the higher reward it will be. And then the difficulty of the quests will vary. And then obviously the more difficult quests, for example, like lose like 7 combats, will grant more Ixtal shards than something a lot simpler like your Ixtal champion reaches 150 MR. So that is how the distribution of the Ixtal shards are relative to the difficulty of the quests. And then as you put in 5 and 7, 5 is basically just a 2-player HP at the start of each round. You get to heal, and then 7 is, well, if you get 7, you're probably winning the game. Brock is going to be the unlockable unit for this trait, and you unlock him by collecting 500 total Ixtal shards. Okay, Noxus. So Noxus is the summons trait of the set. Here's a board that you can play with Noxus. Basically, after dealing 50% of the enemy's total HP, the autocon will spawn in. So this is a little different compared to last set's Mighty Mech, where you can actually like place the mech. In this case, the autocon will just like spawn in. Autocon is pretty good. It deals damage, also provides damage amp to Noxus units, and also tanks. So that is it's a pretty good trait. This is also really good on stage 2. Basically, any summons trait on stage 2 is really good because in stage 2 you only have like 3 to 4 units. So being able to have an extra unit help out will really help you win streak the early game. Piltover. So this is kind of a new trait that is not necessarily relatable to previous ones. There are 6 Piltover units, with the unlockable one being T-Hex. And I forgot to mention the T-Hex, you need to have 9 star levels of Piltover units in order to unlock the T-Hex. The way it works is at each breakpoint 2, 4, and 6, you will be able to choose a module. And what these modules are, it will basically be team-wide buffs or enemy debuffs, and you will have 3 options. So you'll have 3 options granted to you. There are more than 3 modules per breakpoint, so you can't always see the same ones the exact times. And on the next slide here, I'll show you some of the best ones. Or I guess I won't show you. Tier 1 player Bosso Skills posted on Twitter a Piltover tier list after one of the recent nerfs. So any of the S tier 1, so EMP is on the 2 breakpoints, Upgrade is on the 6 breakpoints, and then you have a couple other ones here that are on the 2 and the 4. So just follow this tier list, you're good to go. Some of the really strong ones for the 2 Piltover trait is going to be EMP and the nets. So 90 caliber net and EMP, just really strong. Currently playing only 2 Piltover is ideal. That's because the 4 and the 6 Piltover traits, or Piltover like units, and the effects are not that strong right now. So usually you just splash in 2 Piltover within a board and be able to like benefit from these modules here. And what it does, EMP basically increases the mana cost of your enemies, and then the nets will stun the units that dealt the most damage on the enemy team, and all of these modules proc after 8 seconds. Okay, let's keep going here. So Shadow Isles. This is going to be a comp slash... This will be a comp that you play from either stage 2 or not at all, because it's a stacking comp. Basically, you'll be able to get something called souls on unit death. So it's not only your units, it's also the enemy units. And what these souls do will empower the Shadow Isles units abilities and also unlock Shadow Isle units. So for example, I think Gwen is 20. Once you're at 20 souls, you get the Gwen. Calista, I think you get her at 75. And then you'll be able to unlock the Thresh after collecting 175 souls. So that is what the souls do. Also, the actual trait itself grants a little bit of AD and AP, but as you can see here, the AD and AP values are not that much. So once you basically unlock Thresh, then you can drop out of some of the lower cost Shadow Isle units and play better units. Shurima. So this is a really strong trait, and the Shurima units are very strong. In order to get the Shurima units, first you must have Azir. So Azir is the only Shurima unit that you could buy naturally from the shop. All the other ones are lockable or unlockable, and they are currently locked, and you can get them within these conditions here. So Nasus, you have to lose 2 in a row. In Renekton, you have to win 2 in a row, and Xerath, you have to alternate win and losses. The slashes here means that once you unlock a Shurima, then it will be harder to unlock your next Shurima. So for example, if you lose 2 in a row after having Azir fielded on your board, you'll get the Nasus, and then if you want Renekton, you'll have to lose, or you'll have to win 4 in a row. So it's really hard to get all of the Shurima units, but they're all really strong. Nasus is a really strong tank as a 4 cost. Renekton is a great AD bruiser as a 4 cost, and then Xerath is a 5 cost, and he is kind of like your previous Xeraths, where he just ults from the backline, deals a lot of magic damage, and he is also able to provide your team charms if you played that set. I forget which set it was, maybe set 12. So yeah, good units. It's just really hard to get because you have to get an Azir, and then Azir leads to the other units if you are able to unlock their conditions. So apart from that, each second Shrimans also gain AES and restore 20 HP. And depending on what you have, it's either gaining 20% max HP on combat starts, resists, and if you are able to get all 4 Shrimans, I'm pretty sure you just win the game and your Azir becomes a 3-star unit. Okay, Targons are the threats of this set. If you played Monsters Attack, basically this means that these units don't have any traits, but they're just stronger than your usual units. And some of these units provide utility. So if Helios has Thunder, Leona has Wound. If you pair her with the Diana, they work together. They apply something called Moonlight. So Diana uses this Moonlight to dash around. Also, Diana has a Dazzle. So it provides Shred and Chill. And Targ also provides team-wide magic resist. So this would be like a compute play. Skarner, I'd say, is like an honorary Targon. He is technically only Ixtal, but as Targ provides team-wide magic resist, Skarner provides team-wide armor. So usually just play Skarner on this board as well, and you just play like no traits, but traits at the same time with the Targon. And yeah, this is what your Targon board would look like. Either rerolling around like the Zoe Leona with Diana, or you could go fast with Aurelion Sol and get him stacking. But not too strong right now. Recently a lot nerfed on PBE, but hey, anything can happen on the live sets. Okay, Void is similar to previous set 9's Zaun, where basically once you get Void onto your board and activate it, you'll be unlocking mods, and you can attach these mods onto Void units. So if you played set 9 Zaun, you know that these mods do not take up an actual item slot. They can also be either defensive or offensive. So when you have Void on your board, you could quickly check the mods that you have and then play around them. So if you have an offensive mod on your 2 Void, then all you have to do is play 2 Void, and then you can use that mod. Or maybe if it's on your 4 Void breakpoint, then you'll have to play 4 Voids and get those mods / mutations. Okay, Yordle is the econ / reroll trait of the set. If you're playing Yordle, usually you just try to 3-star all of them, and it's pretty easy to do that because, well, except for like Fizz and like obviously Ziggs, because they're usually lower cost units like 1, 2, 3. Also, as you go up into the breakpoints, you on the 6 breakpoint, this is basically the equivalent of 4 free gold per round, which is huge. And then on the 8 breakpoint, you are able to get either like components or like gold or like units. So it's very easy to like 3-star these units. Also on the 4 breakpoints, your first shop each round has a Yordle on it, so that's why it's like the econ / reroll one, and Yordles become stronger when they are 3-starred. One thing to note is Fizz is a unlockable unit, but you only are able to unlock him by playing either like Yordles or Bilgewaters. So it's basically, if you're going for the Fizz 3 in your spot and other players, they can't really stop you unless they also go out of their way to unlock Fizz. So that is just something to consider for this composition. There's no defense. You can't play defense. Okay, Zaun is a durability and burst of attack speed combat trait. So 3, 5, and 7. So not to be confused with the previous Zaun where you have the mods. Now this is just like a combat trait. Really strong. Singed is a menace right now on PBE, so he'll probably be nerfed before the new set actually drops. But this is your board that you want to play on level 8 right now. And Zaun is really good. Basically, you just get a lot of durability, or you don't get that much durability, but you get a burst of attack speed, and it occurs every 4 seconds, and it even occurs every 3 seconds if you get 7 in. So yeah. So those are all the origins. Moving on to the classes now, and as you can see here, the previous sets, for example, like Source, which was the AP granting trait, was like a selfish trait. So if you played like 2 sorcerers, only the sorcerers would be getting that AP. Now, in this case, the Arcanist will grant AP to your team. So playing the 2-piece Arcanist is 18 AP to the whole team. This is really good. So this means that although Vertical Arcanist is also good, like you can play 6 Arc and to get a lot of AP, play around like this board, this means that there is still a lot of value to playing the 2-piece Splash in any board, because 18 AP is a lot, and just playing around 2 Arcanists, especially like Swain, who goes in plenty of boards because he's a Noxus, Arcanist, and a Juggernaut. This just means that the horizontal or like the 2-piece traits of these splash units or supportive traits is really, really good. So that's for Arcanist. The next one is like Bruiser. So same thing. The previous one, known as like Heavyweights in the previous sets, only granted 100 HP for your team. Now it's 150 maximum HP. So that's very good as well. This is essentially just the HP trait. Pair this with resistance and durability, of course. But unlike Heavyweights, there is no AD granted within this trait. It's just pure HP. So yeah, you can play the Silent Bard board. It's still okay. It got nerfed pretty hard recently, but definitely a board that you can still play. Defenders, there's not really a defender board. If you compare this with the last set Sebastians, you'll just be disappointed. The two-piece is, or not even the two-piece, just playing defender on your board is already better than the previous Bastions. So Bastions used to be grant 10 armor to your whole team. Now it's grant 12 armor to the 12 armor and magic resist to the whole team. So you can kind of already see a pattern here that these like two-piece, or just having like either the trait or like the two-piece of the trait on your board is really good and just benefits the whole team, while the vertical may not be as good. So this is what defenders is. Pair this with HP and durability, and as you can see here, it's better as a team-wide two-piece trait rather than the vertical, but who knows, anything can change. Maybe this value will change here. But for now, there's not really a 4 defender or a 6 defender board. Okay, Disruptor. This is an insane trait. It's a dazzle plus a bonus damage trait. And for those who don't know what dazzle is, basically you're just reducing the damage dealt by the enemies. In this case, it's by 10%. And this is great on units that have AoE abilities. So like Seraphine, she's able to cast and like basically hits the whole board diagonally. Also, she does like some AoE damage. Same with the Mel. She's able to do some AoE damage and then she has an explosion. So these units are really, really good to spread this. Also, you deal bonus damage, and 25% bonus damage is nothing to laugh at. So Disruptor, definitely really, really strong trait right now, and here is a board that you could play. The boards in this set for like level 9 are like pretty flexible, and you can usually just play around what you hit, and that's pretty fun, so you don't have to follow an exact strict structure. Gunslinger, pretty simple, just a 2 and a 4-piece trait. It's just an 80 granting trait, so just pair this with attack speed, crit, and amp. Here's a board that you could play. It's like the MF Warwick board, where Warwick is your actual carry, and then Misfortune is just applying your anti-heal or your Sunder. I think Senna 1 is better than Misfortune 2. You can't quote me on this, but Senna does so much for the team, and I think this is more of a Warwick board than a Misfortune board. So yeah, we'll just have to see when the stats come out. Invoker, this is similar to the previous set's Prodigy. However, instead of the trait granting you like actual mana, the Invoker trait just provides bonus mana gen from all sources. So I think this is a little bit worse than like something like the Prodigy. Here you have 25% more mana or 45% more mana. Here's a board you can play around the 5 Freljord and the 4 Invoker, with Lysandra Zillion dealing your damage and Volibear being your melee carry. Yeah, that's Invoker, and then to have this, you just do the spat and the tier, and you're good to go. Juggernaut is the exact same as the previous set's Juggernaut, except the values are a little bit nerfed. That's it. It's the same as set 15. If you did not play set 15, this is just a durability trait, and then while you're above 50% HP, you'll be granted like more durability, and then as you go below 50%, then you'll be just having less. Also, the other effect is when a Juggernaut dies, all the other Juggernauts at the time that are alive will heal for 5% of their max HP. Longshot is similar to, it's actually the exact same as the last set's Sniper. So they are granted damage amp, and they deal more damage based off how far away their target is from the unit. So most of these units have a AoE, not even AoE, just a like a ranged ability, or all of them have ranged abilities. So the farther away they are, the more damage your long shots will do. Quickstriker is an attack speed trait that provides more based off of the target's missing HP. This can be made into a emblem with a pan and a bow. This is kind of the same. This is the same board as I showed for the Gunslinger one. Is just playing around Warwick with the Quickstriker, and yeah. The other good thing about this trait is your team gains 15% attack speed just by having 2 Quickstriker onto your board. So there are definitely a lot of traits this set where just playing the 2-piece grants like really, really good bonuses for your entire team. Slayer reprint of set 14 Slayers, basically this is just Omnivamp and attack damage. However, based off of your missing HP, you'll gain even more attack damage. One thing to note for this composition is since Belveth is already a Slayer, she just wants damage items, and she's 2 range, so usually she is able to stay pretty safe. So you shouldn't be building items like Bloodthirster on your Belveth. Vanquisher, this is the same board as the Slayer one. It just plays both Slayers and Vanquishers. This is, I made an error here. It's a reprint of the previous set's Executioner, where basically it just allows your units to crit, and then also as you go up, you get more crits and more crit strike chance and increase your critical strike damage. So this means that all Vanquisher units, you can think of it just like a built-in Infinity Edge or built-in Jewel Gauntlet. So you usually want to build around the other crit items, which is like the Last Whisper, the Guardbreaker, etc. This does not necessarily mean that an additional Infinity Edge or Jewel Gauntlet is horrible on these units. Like, it still does something, you get more damage just from building the item. However, usually you just want to build the other items and pair it with crit damage or mana. And then last but not least, we have Wardens here. It's similar to the previous sets of Vanguard. It scales with HP, and the one really good thing about this is the times that the shield procs is at 75% and 25% HP. So items such as Steadfast, that grants more... Steadfast is basically just like Juggernaut. It grants more damage reduction if you are above 50% HP. So if you get a shield at 75% HP, this means you're able to use the entire shield's value with the above 50% HP additional damage reduction of the Steadfast. So Steadfast is very good on these Warden units. Same with HP, as the shield also just the shield just scales off of how much percentage HP you have. Okay, so that is everything for today. Basically, today we just talked about a little intro of the sets, and if there's anything you remember, it's that for the unlocks, you just have to require a certain condition in order for these units to become available, and then you're guaranteed a copy in your next slot on your next shop. And then for just playing TFT in general now, stage 3 is a bit more important, where you are at risk of taking 1 extra damage like per loss, and then also dealing 1 extra damage per win. Stage 4 is the other way around, and it's just much harder to get to level 8 now. Like 12 gold is actually a lot. If you think about this, this is 6 rules. So before, when you had level to 8 and you have like 6 extra rules, now you just have to spend that money getting to level 8. So econ augments are quite good. So for the new set, I think it drops in about a week and a little bit on December 3rd. If there's any advice that I can give for learning the new set, is just read everything. You don't need to know exactly what comp is really strong on the current PBE. You just need to know what units do, what the augments are, like what items go on units, and also what the traits do. So then when the trait or when the set actually does drop and you see like, oh, the most broken comps according to the stats are like 1, 2, 3, you already know how to play 1, 2, 3, even if that's not what you're just like spamming right now on PBE. Okay, so that's it for me. I'm going to upload this onto YouTube now, and then maybe play some games on the stream. And thanks for watching.